So, what is going on between Kate and William once and for all? Once and for all, what's really going on? So, I've been, listening to different YouTubers this morning, and, William seems to be getting it left and right because of his recent statements on the conflict between Israel and Gaza, which I have expressed my opinion on that. I feel that William is the wrong messenger because when you want to talk about things like peace and world peace and peace, make peace between strangers, I really feel that you have an obligation to show rather than tell. You don't tell people to be peaceful and behave peacefully when you are doing the opposite in your own life, you know. And it is my opinion that William needs to lead by example, right? He needs to lead by example and show us all, because he's the king to be, right? So he's above us all, how to be peacemakers, how to live peacefully with each other, how to forgive, how to extend an olive branch, how to let bygones be bygones, how to treat each other fairly and with respect so that conflicts are reduced, if not completely eliminated. And I think it's an opportunity for William. And I have been very vocal about that because I can't be a hypocrite. I don't think that at this moment in his life, and he's a human being, right? He's evolving every day. He's learning every day. He's making decisions every day. So he's not finished, right? He's not finished forming. I'm quite older than William and I'm still forming as well. We are all forming until the day we die. And so there's room for improvement. So it's not like an absolute judgment. But I would say that at this period of his life, of his evolution as a human being, I don't think he's the one to talk to the Israelis and the Palestinians about their conflict and about the importance of making peace. Although, that all said, I readily admit that someone needs to talk about it and someone needs to get them to stop and someone needs the humanitarian crisis to be resolved, alleviated, for people to stop killing people and to live in peace, to live in harmony, to live in equity, to live in fairness, to rise to the best versions of our collective selves. Someone does need to deal with that in the international community. I just don't think it's William, and I don't think it's anybody in the British royal family at this time. At this time, I do think there's hope for William. I don't condemn him absolutely. I don't say, oh, he can never be redeemed. I say first you contact your brother, because guess what? Even if your brother is the most terrible human being on the face of the planet, and it seems to me that that's the position that has been taken by some members of the royal family, that it is still incumbent upon you as the head of the Church of England to be, you're next in line, as the big brother, right? As the bigger person, right? As the leader to be in the international community who wants to have your word mean something, right? That it is incumbent upon William to reach out to Harry, even if we are all convinced, and I'm not convinced, but even if everybody else is convinced that Harry is the one who did something wrong. Even if Harry's the one who did everything wrong and William did everything right, it should be even easier for William to be the bigger person in this relationship, especially because he is the older brother, and reach out to his brother and publicly, let us see him with Harry and Harry's wife and his own wife, Kate, to show what it looks like when peace is restored, when forgiveness is achieved, when people learn to live with each other despite their differences, etc., etc. Until he does that, then I have to respectfully hold my position that I don't want to hear anything at all he has to say about Gaza and Israel, because it's a big distraction, and it literally causes me to grow wrinkles. Okay. It literally, like, immediate and irreversible wrinkles appear in my face when he starts with that. That all being said, this is about him and Catherine's relationship. What the hell is going on with that? Well, number one, it's none of my business, right? Honestly. But they are public figures. And so I'm just, I'm shooting the breeze, but nothing that I say here has any remote bearing on anything. What are my observations? I would say from their body language in recent months, maybe even years. This was a fairly recent picture, and that was a very cozy picture of them in comparison to many others that have been out for the past, I would say, year or two. Um, is that I personally have observed, even before Catherine's illness, a marked distance between William and Kate, and it manifests in their body language. Now they will say they walk this way and they travel this way because they have children, and so they're holding their children's hands. But I have always wondered about that, and whether they use their children as convenient, oh honey, I don't want to make love to you tonight because the children are sleeping with us in the bed, or whatever. You know how some parents do that, where they put the kids in between them, like especially the wife. It's like, please, I can't, I just don't want. And so she puts the children in between. I get that sense with Catherine and William in their public appearances, is that they use their children as props to hide a distance that has developed between them in the last couple of years. In fact, I would go further by saying that I think Harry and Meghan were one of the best things that ever happened to Kate and William's marriage, because it gave them something to unite about, right? It gave them something to be united on, their mutual hatred and distress and scorn for Harry's choice of a spouse, you know, and for many different reasons. I mean, it's a multi-tiered, um, you know, hate fest, really, that they have for Meghan. And so they were able to unite on that. But once Meghan went back to California, then, I mean, this looks rather cozy. This one doesn't. I don't know when this was taken, but that's a cozy picture. It was in 2022. Okay. Once Meghan and went back to where she came from, um, then it became more and more difficult for Kate and William, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. This is all my speculation. I'm not saying that any of it is fact, but for them to hide the distance, the growing distance that has grown each and every year more and more, until it seems to me that in almost every picture they are oceans apart from each other, and they use their children as a prop, a wedge, but it's a prop. It's not true. It's that they don't want people to know and to see that they have grown apart. And because it's way too consistent. It's way too consistent the way they're always oceans apart. A couple in love can, walk distances apart, and yeah, they can hold their children's hand, you know, between them on occasion, but not every time. Not every time. Because when you're in love, you naturally, I mean, it's not about, public displays of affection, because some people don't really, they're not into that. And I completely understand that. I completely agree. So it's not that I'm asking for public displays of affection. It's just that I'm saying there appears to be a distance, And this distance has been growing over the years. And the way they deal with it is they put the children as a wedge, as a prop, so that it doesn't show that they have a big distance growing between them, but that if a person is discerning, they can totally see through all of it. Right? It's not true. There's a distance. They are, in my opinion, the marriage and the couple have grown apart. Now, the thing is, if it's true that they have grown apart, it's not like it would be so bizarre because, they have been together for an incredibly long time. They've been married at least a decade, if not more. And before that, they were together for a good decade. It's like if ennui and boredom have set in, I would not be surprised because I don't know how anybody does that. How do you keep the spark going that long? I mean, yeah, I don't know. How many positions can you adopt? It's like, my goodness. So the thing is that what do you do? Because there are people who stay married for 40 years, 50 years. I mean, look, I've seen some 50-year marriages, and I want to tell you something. Girl, I'm just like, whoa. I mean, I don't feel like I'm missing out. You know what I mean? I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that I learned to be on my own because, marriage doesn't seem to be happy for a lot of people over time. You begin and you're in love and it's like, you know, it's amazing and you rip each other's clothes off and this and that. But then there comes a tipping point where it's like there's nothing left but hatred. There's nothing left but disdain. There's nothing left but contempt. Contempt sets in. Then you start saying the most horrific things to each other in front of the children, no less, and etc., etc. Now, there have been rumors that, you know, one or both of these people may or may not have, you know, stepped out. It's all over the internet. I don't know, but these are allegations, right? I'm not saying it's true, right? These are allegations that are on the internet that suggest that, um, you know, one or both of these people have stepped out on their marriage. Would it surprise me? No, it would not surprise me. What would surprise me, however, is if any of those alleged extramarital relationships were the reason that they would decide to say get a divorce. I mean, there are also rumors that they're on the verge of divorce. I think as a former divorce lawyer, I was a divorce lawyer for like 2 minutes, like literally 2 minutes, many years ago. So I'm not an expert, but I think it's quite possible that they have agreed to separate, to quietly separate. They would it be an official separation agreement kind of thing? I don't know because I don't think they would want the press involved. I think they're both kind of embarrassed about it if it's true. So they don't want people to know that they're separated. I think they probably have a private agreement, one that is written but private. This is my speculation. I don't know that this is true, right? I don't know that this is true. But when William makes an announcement that in February that his wife will not be accompanying him in November on an international excursion slash appearance, um, of which he has so much invested of his time, his life, his reputation. And he's telling us in February that she won't be there in November. That's saying something. That's saying something, right? Because it's one thing to say that, well, my wife is not feeling well in February, da da da. But for you to predict a whole year in advance that your wife is not going to be there with you at an event where your wife normally would be there with you, I think that's telling us something that we need to look into. And I think the fact that the British press has not been talking about it is very curious. Very, very curious. Like, what's really going on here, you know? And yeah, so I think that we're looking at potentially an agreement, an arrangement. This is all my opinion. Again, I'm not saying this is fact, people. Like, I'm not saying this is fact. This is just me, looking at two public figures and trying to figure out what do I think is going on. And I could be way off base, right? But I think that they have agreed to separate because, they're just, in my opinion, bored with each other, right? They're bored. Now, if I'm Kate, what do I do in this situation? Well, it might explain why I'm ill, right? It might explain why I'm ill. This would make you ill, especially if it's the husband who wants to separate in this kind of situation. If he's the one who's saying, "Look, I can't do this anymore. The spark isn't there. I'm bored." It doesn't matter what you do. If you got plastic surgery, if you change your hair color, if you got a whole new wardrobe, I don't care. I'm bored and I can't do this anymore. Right? What do you do when you're Kate? You know what you do? What I tell you, what you don't do is you don't go slit your wrists or something like that. I mean, you pick yourself up and you just start having a jolly good life. Like you just, I mean, and not to show him anything, just to really have a good life. You do get a little bit of a hair change, but it has to be the right color. You can't go Brad Pitt blonde or something. You know how Brad Pitt changed his hair color when he and Jennifer Aniston divorced? It was jarring. You don't want to be jarring. You just want to, but I guess their separation agreement means that they can't be publicly seen with anybody, obviously. They can behind the scenes, but okay, but you know what? Behind the scenes. So Kate would have to just really, how do I put this? It's not to make William jealous, but it's really just to prove to herself that she can go solo and she's enough and she doesn't need a title or a tiara or a crown or anything to be whole and to be happy. And so she just has to start really looking like she can do it without William. And William will then probably come to his senses because I have a feeling if my theory is right, it's William who wants out. William who wants out. And it could also be Meghan's fault. Now, what do I mean by that? Poor Meghan. Well, William is a very competitive man and he competes with his little brother. I always remember what he said that time. If he can do it, I can do it. Something when Harry was in the army, something Harry did when he joined the army. They were very young, still very cute. They loved each other. They were sort of ribbing each other during an interview. And it really was like, if he can do it, I can do it. He has that attitude with his little brother. Very, very competitive. And I think that Harry picking Meghan for spouse was both admirable and repellent to William. William was just like, What? What? What do you think you're doing? This woman is a black divorcee from America. Are you nuts?" And then you go off to Montecito to live with her. What? You know, and he's appalled, but he's also fascinated. He's fascinated with the relationship that Harry has with Meghan. And he sees that Meghan makes Harry even more exciting. Meghan makes Harry even more exciting. And Harry was never boring. He was never boring. But Meghan makes him more exciting. I think everyone who's fair would have to admit that. She brings something to this relationship, to this marriage, and to the public image of her husband that is very, very interesting and very exciting. And unfortunately, Catherine is a different kind of a girl. You see, she's a Capricorn. You know, I'm Capricorn too, so I'm not saying anything against Capricorns, but we're not the most exciting girls in the world. We're just not. You know, we're boring. We're conservative, we're reserved, you know, and we cannot compete with a Leo in terms of just electrifying excitement. We just can't. There's no way that a Capricorn could be more exciting than a Leo. But the thing is, so William sees that and he's become envious of it. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. It's my opinion. I hope I'm still allowed to have an opinion in this world. I hope, right? I can hope and pray. This is just my opinion. Now, William has become jealous of the dynamic charisma that he sees between Harry and Meghan, and he has started to look at his wife Catherine as lacking. She's too, predictable. So in her place, I would be looking to figure out how can I be less predictable, but not in a reckless way, in a way that showcases just how interesting and exciting I am in my own right. That's what I would be doing, you see? Because my God, I think that the marriage is in trouble. I really do. I think the marriage is in trouble.